This video is filmed before a studio audience.
Not really.
Hello, developers. In this introduction to development with Outsystems video, we're going to cover database design and development. So stay tuned. Hello, Outsystems developers. My name is Paul. I've been a developer for more than 20-something years and a Outsystems developer now for over 4 years. Now, while I don't know everything that there is about Outsystems, what I do know, I'll teach you. So stay tuned for this next video. If you could take a few moments to please give this video a thumbs up and subscribe if you haven't done so already, that would be greatly appreciated as it helps Google show this video to others. Hello, developers, and welcome back. Today we are starting a video that is, if you were to ask me what is the most important part of development within Outsystems, I would tell you that it is your database design, because Outsystems is database centric. The most important part of Outsystems is the database. Without it, it's just a blah development environment. I mean, that's the purpose of Outsystems, is to take data, display it, go through the CRUD. In case you don't know what CRUD is, that's create, read, update, and delete. And you're going to hear a lot about that in the next two videos. Now, originally, when I created this video, it was going to be all encompassing. It was going to be huge. And I honestly had to cut it into at least two parts. As of right now, I believe it's going to be a two-part video, this being the first part, because there's a lot to learn, not so much for the advanced user. But if you're new to this, yes, this is a lot to take in, or enough to where it would make a very long, boring video, which, yeah, we don't want that. All right, this video will cover the basics of database design within Outsystems. And for this video, our goals are as follows. We're going to introduce relational database design. We're going to create a database module. And then we are going to create 3 relational entities within that module. Now, many of you are not new to software development, so you are all aware of what database design is, and you know how important it is to the proper deployment of an application. But for those of you that may be new to this whole idea, I am going to go through some basics. Now, these are basics. Database design is a huge topic. We're just going to cover the basics of database design. All right. So, as I said, Outsystems is a database-centric application environment. Everything that you do, for the most part, is dependent on a good database design. Your database should be encapsulated in its own module. I'm going to show you that some of the tools that Outsystems provides for you for creating quick apps are not encapsulated in their own module. But generally, best practices is that if you're ever going to share this data with anything else other than your own website, your own application, that you should put it in its own module. And it's been my experience that that's just a good practice. Doesn't hurt it if you don't end up sharing with other modules, other systems, but boy, it sure does come in handy if you do. So we'll just assume best practices and create it in its own module. Your application success, and I don't know how to better explain this, or how to drive it to you, but your application success will depend on how well you architect your database application. Good databases will make it easier in the long run to expand your application. Bad database design is a sure way of causing problems down the line. So, in as much as you can, try to stick to good database design. Now, what is that? Man, that is a subject for another video because there's a lot to it. It's not simple. There's people whose sole purpose in life is to create and manage databases. So, as a developer, in many companies, there may be a database administrator, architect, designer that will create the tables for you or the entities, and you just use them. In smaller teams, you may have to do some of that. So just keep that in mind, okay? Okay, what is a database? Wow, if you don't know this, you really need to do some additional studying, but I'm pretty sure 99.99% of you know what a database is. Database, in simple terms, is an organized collection of structured information or data typically stored electronically in a computer system. For our purposes, a database is information that is stored in a specific type of software called a database engine, and this is obviously in a computer. Now, quick note, Outsystems is built around SQL, Microsoft SQL. All right, so keep that in mind. So if you're coming from an Oracle environment, the calls are just a slightly different, although really you'll never notice it. Also, that does not mean that it's only connecting to SQL. You can connect Outsystems to just about any database. There's a lot of plugins for that. All right. Now, what is a relational database? A relational database is a type of database that stores and provides access to data points that are related to one another. A relational database is made up of a set of tables with data that fits into a predefined category. A relational database in a relational database, each row in a table is a record with a unique ID called the key. What does that look like? Well, for those of you that are already aware of what that is, you know, right? For some who do not, this is the equivalent of a table, which is called an entity here in our application. In Outsystems, they're called entities, not tables. And a table has an ID, which is a number that is non-replicatable. In other words, there's only one version of it. And you have rows or columns, however you want to look at them, of data that it's saved, so that when you view your data, it looks something like this. An ID, a value, and a row that has columns, different types. This one is called capital and this one country. And you have values in it. That is, in a nutshell, a database table. Now, if we had multiple tables, they would link to each other through a foreign key, which means that, let's say that we have countries, right? So let's say that we had another table called states. And let's say that the states were for Zimbabwe, right? So that table would have, let's say it has 2 states. I don't know how many states Zimbabwe has, or uh, whatever they call them there, but let's say it had 2. We would have a column called states and a column called uh, country ID. And instead of, countries, of course, this would be states, and it would have its own ID. So the ID in this table would relate to uh, this particular table or entity if we were talking about a states table. Now, all of this is going to make more sense when we start getting into it. Let's not panic just yet, because let's face it, this is going to be a long row, and some of this is just difficult to explain. So, let's talk about databases within Outsystems. Entities, which are the version of tables within Outsystems. Entities have names and attributes. So when you click on to create a table, you're going to have a name, a description, which you're going to enter. Both of these, you're going to manually enter something. A description and public yes or no. In Outsystems, yes means that other modules can have access to this database. Now, in this case, it's one app, one database, and it's all within the same module. The module is this app, and this database is within the same module. So we could share it with others, but that would not be good practice. Next, we'll see how that is slightly different when you have other modules. So if you're ever going to share it with someone else, you want to flag that as a yes. And expose read only, that if you say no, or expose read only, you put yes, it means that other modules will be able to view the data but not edit it or delete it. If you put no, it will mean that other modules do have access to that data. Okay? All right. Now, let's go to tables or entities. Entities are made of the following. They have a name. They have attributes. All right, so you can add an entity attribute, and attributes have the following values that you can fill for it. And let's come here and select this one, since this is the one that we just added. A name, the name of the attribute, the description, which is the purpose of the attribute, the label. Now, this label is viewable within the widgets or controls, and you'll see that at a later time. The data type, which is a drop-down box. You have your basic data types here, or you can point it to a foreign key. So see that right there? We could say that is going to be country identifier, all right? So that means that whatever I put here, so let's say that I wanted to if we come back here, let's say I want to add states if this entity is going to be for states. Let's say that I wanted to add states, and we're going to add another attribute called name. If I wanted to link this to this table, and I wanted to add a state for Zimbabwe, I would put 199 where it says I would put 199 in that spot. And from now on, that will be the foreign key that connects these two tables together. States connects to countries. So I could pull up, show me Zimbabwe, and then show me all states that are from Zimbabwe. Okay? All right. Clear as mud? Of course. If, like I said, if you're an advanced user, this is nothing to you and you understand it. But if you're new to all of this, and I have to make the assumption that maybe you're not, then it's a little bit more complicated. Of course, we can flag it as mandatory, meaning that you have to flag it. So, if I want to link this table to this table through the country ID, I've got to flag that mandatory. Otherwise, I'm going to have a whole bunch of records that may or, someone may have forgotten to add that country ID that would, screw up the database search. So there you go. That's the purpose of it. All right. A database can be within the application, as this one is. So this is the module, my application, and this is a database within this application, or it can be in a separate module. How does that look? Well, here's a module that comes with Outsystems, and it's the Systems module, which this is stuff that belongs to Outsystems. And one of the things that belongs to Outsystems is the table of users, people that we add to be able to access the application. So this is a separate module. It was automatically created for us, and it's a mandatory module within the application, but it is its own module. It's not inside of this. It is a dependency. So if we were to look at dependencies for this application and look at in use, you'll see that systems is a dependency of this application, meaning this application, in order to operate correctly as it's designed right now, needs to have system in it. Okay? All right. Let's cancel out of here. We'll cover that at a later time. Okay, so what do we want to do? Well, let's cover something really quickly that it's kind of interesting. Not all that much, but you kind of have to know about it. And I'm going to bring this document into the image so that you can see what I'm talking about. Remember when we selected just a second ago in here, we selected the data type. There's basic data types. There are entity identifier data types that you can select for your attribute. Okay? In fact, all of those data types are consistent across the application development environment. You'll have to learn these, and they are in the documentation of Outsystems somewhere. Just do a Google search for it and it'll show up. But your data types are Boolean, currency, date time, integer, long integer, decimal, email, phone number, and identifier. Those are the data types that can be placed inside of that particular attribute. All right? Okay, let's get this party rolling. So, what are we going to do? Paul, what are we going to do? Well, the first thing I'm going to do, I'm going to go to the development environment. I am going to create a new module. That's right. I'm going to add a module. My first app. Now let's call it customer database module. Okay, and it's going to be a service module. And when we create it here, it's going to become a dependency of this application. So we're going to rename this. As long as we're here, let's rename this. We're gonna build a help desk. All right. Change the name, change the description. We're gonna add the module. We gave it a module name. Woo, look at that. Help desk module. I guess that, what did I say I was originally going to call it? Customer database. I guess when you change the name here, it changes the name there. Just interesting. Okay, that's fine. Where I really needed to change it is there, and we'll cover that in a minute. All right, we're going to create the module. And this is so exciting. Look at that. Oh, it gave me the wrong type of module. I must have clicked on the wrong thing. It gave me something that I did not want. See, it gave me something that I did not need. It gave me one with main flow and all that. So it gave me a reactive module. I don't want this. I'm going to close this. This wasn't part of my project or what I was going to show you guys, but it's just as good. We can work from this. See, I forgot to change it to this. Service. Okay. Let's try it again. Customer data. Whoops. I'm having to type really weirdly here on my desk. It's going to be a service. I'm going to hit create module. Boom, chakalaka. Yes. So you'll notice that all I have is process logics and data. So it's not a web app. Where here, which is a web app, I have interfaces. This is a service module. I don't need interfaces. All I'm going to be doing here is putting the database. So, all right. So here we go. I am going to go through the process that we went previously, I think, of adding or what is it? Let's see if I can get to my Excel. Where's my Excel? There's my Excel. All right. It is in another screen, so you guys cannot see it. So don't panic. It's okay. I'm going to show you in a minute, just as soon as I get my table. So I created this table by going into Wikipedia and finding out capitals and countries. Okay, so these are all the capitals of all the countries. I'm going to change this here to read countries. And I'm going to save it as country capital 2. All righty. So this is just a straight out Excel spreadsheet that with capital, countries, latitude, and longitude. Close that. I am going to come here to the database, and I am going to tell it to import new entities from Excel. And I am going to go to my very messy application, or Do you want to import the following entity from country capital 2.xlsx with a she named countries? Absolutely. Let's do that. So I click on that and boom, I've got a fully built database. But of course, I got to publish it before it shows up. So let's come over here and do that. And it does take a little bit. Here's where I need to introduce the sound effect from SpongeBob. Okay, so you'll notice I published and it stayed green. Why does it stay green and not blue? Because it doesn't have interfaces. Only the ones that have interfaces go to a blue color. So if I come over here and view data, and okay, well, what's going on? It's in my computer. Should have all the data in there. No records found. Whoa, something went really, really wrong. Okay, let's close it. Let's go back to open the module. There it is. Yeah, something's going on with the IDE or most likely my computer. But there it is. There's all the data. It was always there. It never went away. All right. So, okay. So now we are going to create a new entity called states. And for states, we're going to add an attribute of name. We're going to leave everything else the same. Ooh, come on, capitalize that and Paul. And we're going to add another attribute of, in fact, we're not going to add that attribute. I'm going to Control Z out of that. I'm going to come over here. Okay, we are going to add it because I think this will be actually easier for you to see. Country ID. Look at that. It went out and found out the table and the table identifier and filled it in for me. So here are basic types. There's a whole bunch of different things that have to do with Outsystems. But the one table that we actually built, or entity, it had already picked for me as something that I need to have on there. So, all right, very good. That solves that. Okay, we're going to add one more table, and it is the table of gosh, what do we call it here? We're gonna call it location. I wasn't really planning on doing this, but we're gonna do this. Location. And location is going to have two identifiers. Well, three really, three attributes. We're gonna have, whoops, location name, and we're gonna have, we're gonna have the state ID. See, and as soon as I put that name on there, it went out and looked for that particular data type. Now, why did I do this? Paul, tell me, Paul, why did you do this? Well, I want to show you something. We're going to see that in a moment when I click on Entity Diagram. I'm going to add an entity diagram. I'm going to drag the country table, and we're going to drag my state table. And now I am going to drag my location table or entity. All right, there you have a perfect example of a relational database. Location has to have a state. That state comes from the state table, so we put the state ID that is associated with it. Each state has to be part of a country, and that is related to the ID of the country. So I could do a search in any one of these tables and be able to relate all the way back in either direction. All right? Okay, I think I have used up my welcome time for today. We are running a little bit long. I was afraid of this. This is a complicated subject, but I think that we have achieved our goals, which was to introduce relational database design, to create a database module, and to create 3 relational entities within the module. And as a bonus, you got to see what the entity diagram looks like and what a relational database looks like in Outsystems. Listen, thank you very much for hanging out with me today in this. In the next part, we're going to go further into databases and getting data in and out of databases. And there's a lot more stuff we need to cover. It's all easy. It's all going to be fun. You're going to enjoy it. Before you know it, you're going to be an Outsystems professional. So remember what I'm always telling you to do. You need to go and create stress-free, happy apps. See you in the next video. Hey, if these videos are helping you out, I will really appreciate it if you give me a thumbs up and you subscribe to my channel. Plus, you'll be helping a whole bunch of other people to find my channel. I'll see you in the next video, and remember, keep writing those stress-free and happy apps.